Come on, tell us the real reason you left Islam. Tell us the real reason. It's got nothing to do with preservation. Jim.
Sure.
Jim, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Come on, cards on the table here. There is no way you left Islam because you didn't think the preservation was there. We both know that's not true. So tell us why you left Islam.
Well, the other big reason was the problem of evil.
No, I want the real reason why you left Islam. It's not problem of evil is not why you left Islam either. Why did you leave Islam?
That's a big problem.
What was her name?
Sorry, what?
Why did you leave Islam? Problem of evil is not the reason you left Islam. We both know that. Why are you lying to yourself? What was the reason you left Islam? What was the reason?
I'm telling you, problem of evil was one of the biggest reasons.
If it's a problem of evil.
How old were you when you left Islam?
I was 25.
25. And prior to the day before you left Islam, were you praying 5 times a day and all that?
No.
No. But, how long before leaving Islam had you stopped praying?
23, I guess.
So 2 years prior, you stopped praying. So let's be honest. Was you practicing Islam at the time? Were you fasting?
Yeah. Yes, I was fasting, and I used to go to mosque like on Fridays or something. I wasn't a good Muslim at that time, but so I became a doubter. I became a skeptic, and slowly I read Quran and everything. And it didn't make sense.
People are telling us in the comments to test him. You know the Surah Fatiha test. Do we do that?
I think he'll know Surah Fatiha.
Sure.
He'll know Surah Fatiha. That's not the point. The point is this. Everybody here knows he did not leave Islam because of the problem of evil. He's using that as a justification to leave Islam. His reasons for leaving Islam have got nothing to do with intellect. Nothing. It's to do with nafs and desires and whims. Okay, now, whether or not you suffered abuse at the hands of Muslims, I don't know. Whether your imam used to twist your ear, I don't know. Yeah. Whether you were forced to marry someone you didn't want to marry, I don't know. What I can tell by your excuses, what your excuses are nothing more than that. I don't know, you're reaching for Jay Smith for some reason. It's like, subhanAllah, these are your attempts to justify your emotional reason for leaving Islam. And I think we all know that. And I don't know why you're afraid just tell us why you left Islam.
Well, I'm being very honest to you. I would love to join back and be a Muslim.
My issue then, I want to ask.
Why is that? Why is that? Because my whole family is Muslim, so I'm like the odd one out. I'll be happy to join Islam anytime, but I just don't find a good reason to do so. That's why I'm here. Maybe you can give me a good reason.
So let's talk about the problem of evil, because that's the one that I'm most interested in. Is first off, I want to understand what you understand about the problem. Why is it a problem to you? That's something I want to know before we go on further.
Yeah. So like we know that God is all good, right? And if God is all good, then how is he allowing, like, let's say, rape, for example, of a 3-year-old girl and stuff like that, like murders of like innocent children and stuff like that? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, if God is all good, then all good God shouldn't be allowing this, right?
Why not?
Yeah, because if someone is all good, then there is no place for allowing evil, because only an evil person will allow that.
No, an evil person will only allow it if they can't do anything about it, or they choose not to do something about it.
Yes. So
for example, if I have the power to rectify whatever happens, why is it that I have to stop it in the moment?
Sorry, can you repeat?
So for example, let's say that I have the power to do whatever I want, right? I have the power to control reality as we know it. Right, and an evil occurs in my presence, but I know for a fact that at the end of the day, or Judgment Day, as it is, right, I can just reverse everything. I can reward for all the pain and suffering that somebody has given. I can rectify everything to such an extent that evil becomes meaningless in my eyes, in my capacity, not in the capacity of the individual, or actually in the capacity of the individual as well. I can change their perception of everything, right? So that no longer becomes an evil, but becomes a means for reward for them. So how is it that I'm evil now? Because say somebody got raped, okay? Now, as a response to that rape, not only do I punish the person in hellfire, but I also make sure that that person who was raped gets such a reward that now what they went through no longer means anything to them. That they are so grateful for everything that I've done, how am I still evil? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Still, yes. So like, because you still allowed it. If it's such a tiny thing, it doesn't matter. Then why would you even do that? Why would you even allow something like that? Why don't you just give heaven to the person? And if you already know that that's going to happen, then why would you wait for it to happen?
Okay, well, now we're talking about predetermined. Now we're talking about knowledge of the future. But what I'm trying to ask you is, how is it that I'm evil? Because you answered me with a question. So I'm asking you, how is it that I'm still evil if I can rectify everything? Now you say an evil person is somebody who allows it, but I'm offering you another thing, is like, I can rectify whatever occurs to the point where that evil is no longer even perceived as such by the individual who was affected.
Yeah, but the thing is that the game that you're playing makes you the evil character in this case, because you allowed it. Even if you can rectify it, it doesn't give you the authority to do that, because if you're all good, then you shouldn't allow it.
Why shouldn't I allow it if I'm all good? You're just simply repeating what you said earlier.
Yeah, because that's the point, right? Like,
okay, so if I want to give a child a vaccine, there's going to be some pain involved with the shot, right? Should I not allow that to occur, despite the benefit that they'll gain in the process?
Well, if you could avoid the pain, then you would, right?
Depends. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter, but a rape does matter, because a rape is.
Rape does matter. Yes, rape does matter. But I'm talking. I tried to give you an analogy that was much less significant. But now we're talking about somebody. We're talking about a God. We're talking about somebody with all powerful, all knowing, can do whatever he wants, right, and can reward people for even the slightest prick of their finger, to such an extent where it's like they don't even. We have hadith on this as well, where people will look back on their lives and all the evil that was done to them, and because of the reward that Allah has given them, they will say, I didn't even suffer at all. That's literally part of our religion.
Yeah, so then what's the point of giving the suffering?
Okay, there's a difference between saying what's the point of it, and there's something then saying that God is evil as a result. So are you admitting to the possibility that God could possibly not be evil if he's able to rectify it to such an extent where that evil is no longer perceived as such?
Well, I keep repeating it, because like, if I do something bad to you, but then I rectify it and then give you $1 million, that still doesn't discount what I did to you, right? Even if I give you $1 billion afterwards, and you'll be like, okay, thank you, my life is
what you did to me.
You have rectified it.
Yeah, but you've messed up now, because it's not about, like Asadullah now saying. You're saying now, if you did something to somebody and you're acting like God did this to them, God determined this for them.
Yeah, God allowed it.
Well, that's not the same. No, that's different.
You know, it's, allowing something to happen is very different from actually doing it to a person. Committing an injustice against an individual.
If a person stands next to a girl getting raped and doesn't do anything, then we'll be charging him with,
yes,
something.
But God does something about it eventually.
Charging him with what?
If a person is not doing anything, just watching a person getting raped,
yeah, you'll charge them with what?
You may not charge them
what crime will you charge them with?
You may not charge them with any crime, but you know what I'm saying, that he's not all.
No, you just said you'll charge them.
Power to do something.
Yeah,
if he has
right.
the power to do something, if he's holding a sniper and he doesn't shoot the rapist, then he is part of it.
So you're saying, so if he hasn't killed the guy, he's part of the rape?
Yes, he's allowing the rape.
That's in the context of the limitation of the individual himself, because we would require ourselves to do something about it, right? Because we have no power to do anything after the fact, right? But God doesn't. He doesn't have that limitation. He can literally, like, if you die in a fire, he can literally reverse it and give you your skin back and give you the perception that it never even happened. Like, so why does he have to, in the moment, he has to rescue you from the fire? Like, what is stopping him from, why does he need to do, like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is why does he need to do this to not be perceived as evil?
Because the attribute of him is he's all good.
Yes, and part of being all good is he's able to rectify and cause that evil to no longer be perceived.
So you're saying that
isn't elephant in the room here this term all good? Does Allah say he's all good?
Yes, like in Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, it's all the same.
No.
Being all good. No. It's besides the point.
Okay. No, I'll just keep hearing this all good, like Christian flex.
Before we let anybody else go, I just want to finish off my point really quickly here.
Yeah, you're going to try to continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Just really fast is that the problem of evil is not a problem for God, because God, for evil and good in terms of how we perceive things, it's like it doesn't even exist for him, because everything that we complain about, he can rectify in an instance, right? So when you say, well, he allows this to happen, we can question, we can ask, okay, what's the point of that? But then to automatically come to the conclusion that he's evil while still trying to ask what the point is doesn't make much sense to me. Either there is a point that actually makes him immune from this criticism, which you have alluded to the possibility of, which I want to discuss, or there isn't. So which one is it?
Yeah, so I'm just saying that if what you're saying is this, that he can rectify it, so therefore he will remain all good. But my point is that if in some point of time he becomes evil, or he allows evil, and then he rectifies it and he's all good again, that still doesn't discount the fact that he was evil once.
But that's a straw man, because I never claimed that he could become evil and good. No, he's always good, because if the point of the suffering is ultimately a good in his perception, in his eyes, in his construction of the universe, then why is it that you're...
Yeah, but you would say that rape is evil, right?
Yes, I would say rape is evil. Yes, of course.
Yes, so he is allowing that evil thing to happen, right? So he's that, by that definition, he's not all good, right?
No.
Even if he rectifies it after some time. Let's suppose, I can give you an example of me. Like, for example, I give you a drug or something, and I do something to you. In the morning, you don't remember anything. So it's like it never happened to you, but I'm still the evil guy here, right?
Yes, because you are the one who performed the evil.
Yes, but if someone allowed it, let's say, if someone saw me doing it and didn't do anything, if someone had the power to do it.
Okay, so somebody has the power to stop it. So he goes, so he sees that I have been drugged, and he kills that person and then spares me. Okay, what is the difference between Allah eventually sending somebody to hell and then rectifying the pain and suffering that that person went through?
Because Allah at that time doesn't do anything, and you just watch.
Okay, but why does he have to do it at that time? That's one point that I'm trying to make.
Because he's all good, because he has the power to do so.
Yes, he does. He also has the power to to create such an event where that event didn't even actually have any significance whatsoever, thereby removing the criticism towards him. That why did he allow it to happen when the thing that he allowed to happen no longer has significance?
Jim, what if you had to choose, what would you prefer, to keep and to maintain your free will, or guaranteed safety on the other hand? So guaranteed personal security and safety, or free will? If you had to choose between one of these two things, what would you choose?
I think that's a difficult question. It depends. What do you mean by safety?
Well, if I said that you can move to a society right now where you're basically a slave, you're a complete slave of the state, but guaranteed you will not be affected by crime, you will not be murdered, you will not be raped. So in that sense, your personal security and safety is guaranteed, versus living in what we call a free society, right? Where you are free to go and do the activities that you please, but you run a risk of personal injury, of being affected by street crime. What would you prefer? I know what the majority of people would prefer, what they would say, but what would you prefer?
Free will. I would prefer free will, yes.
Right. So then we're complaining about something that we shouldn't be complaining about, right? Because don't you think that what we call evil is basically a byproduct of free will? If God gives us free will to choose between good and bad, and he gives us the freedom to make mistakes, which oftentimes non-Muslims like yourself like to sometimes even boast about, that I let my children make their own decisions. I let my daughter, I let them make their own decisions, let them make their own mistakes. They have to be responsible. They have to learn, right? That's a virtue. So then we shouldn't be complaining about free will in the first place. Don't you think evil is a byproduct of free will? If we're going to allow people to choose between good and bad, that choice is only meaningful, right, if God doesn't supernaturally intervene every time I make an evil decision in my life. In other words, every time I decide to do something evil, like steal some money from your pocket, God has to, send down a thunderbolt at that very moment. He has to work according to your watch, and he has to prevent that theft from taking place. then my evil choice is meaningless. It's not even evil anymore. In a world where I know I'm going to be stopped and prevented from doing anything evil, harming anybody, that even that choice is meaningless. So my point is, for free will to be meaningful, there has to be risk. There has to be harm. There has to be some amount of suffering in a world in which free will is a real thing. It's a meaningful thing.
Brilliant.
Does that make any sense at all to you?
But I can then question, like, why do you need to have evil? Like, why can't you just have free will and not have evil?
Because that would be free will, would it, you nutter? I got a controversial question for you, mate.
That's what I'm trying to explain. That's what I'm trying to explain. I can only conceive of that kind of free will not being free will at all. That kind of free will would be meaningless, you know. Like that would be like me telling my son, hey, look, I give you all the freedoms you want, okay? You can make whatever choice you want. And the second he steps out of the door at 11 p.m. at night to go to a nightclub, I grab him and I shackle him to the bed and I say, no, you're not. So what kind of freedom did I really give him in that situation, right? So again, for free will to be meaningful, suffering as well as what we call evil is a necessary byproduct of that. I mean, this is how I conceive of it. This is how I understand it.
You're
Beautiful
right,
point. I've got a controversial question for you, Jim. Why is rape evil?
On an atheistic worldview. Excellent
question. Why is rape evil?
Yeah.
It's because it creates pain and suffering.
Why is that evil?
I don't believe that anything is like inherently evil.
Oh, okay. Well, that stops there.
A consistent atheist, yeah.
No.
Okay, whoa. So what was the point of the argument?
There we go.
Let me clarify that you don't strawman me. Don't strawman
In fact, I'm troubled. I'm troubled by the fact if we only define something evil as something which incurs suffering or pain. I find that definition to be very insufficient.
No,
so, for example, if I were to modify, if I were to just one point, Jim, if I were to modify your earlier example and say that, like, a man drugs a woman, right? And then he sleeps with her without her consent. He doesn't cause her pain. He doesn't cause her suffering, right? He wears a condom. He uses contraception. He drugs her and he sleeps with her without her consent. The next day she wakes up and she's fine and she goes about living her life. She's not pregnant. She's not harmed. So, but by your definition, which I find to be inadequate, insufficient, if pain and suffering is the only criterion by which you judge something to be evil, how is that act evil according to your atheistic worldview?
Okay, but before I answer that question, I'd just like to say, when I said that there's nothing inherently evil, which I mean the word evil as we use it is like religious, right?
No, but why is hurting people? I know you're going to address that. So that's Jim.
Use the word
why is rape evil? I want to understand. Why is it right? Even if you hurt and suffer them, in your worldview, why is it evil?
Yeah, I just told you it causes pain and suffering. You know, getting to your point.
Why is causing pain and suffering evil?
You cannot function in a society like that.
Why not?
You know, Jim, that is one way of escaping the problem of evil. You know, adopting a worldview in which nothing is evil. Nothing is inherently evil.
No, why is it evil? In your atheistic worldview, who cares if you cause suffering and pain? So what if you're benefiting from it? What's the problem? Why should someone suffers?
The problem of evil is not a problem for me, because I know.
Okay.
This is the problem.
Okay. So we understand. We understand what you're saying. What you're saying is, under your worldview, there is no inherent evil. Therefore, you're not making a positive argument. You're simply saying, within the Islamic view, there is an incoherency because we believe in all-loving God, but evil exists. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Now, that would basically go against something that you previously stated, which is this is a problem for you. It's not a problem for you. Now you've changed your stance.
I said this is a problem for Islam. Like,
no. You said earlier this is a problem for you.
Yes, when I was a Muslim.
No, so now you're not a Muslim. No, you don't care about
now you're not a Muslim. It's not a problem for you that rape, killing, pillaging, genocide, like what the Chinese Communist Party is doing, none of these things bother you as being inherently evil. They are just as random as the particles moving around in a test tube for you.
No, this is a problem. I didn't say this is not a problem. I said the problem of evil itself as a concept is
yes,
not a problem
but
for me.
Do we agree that there is no problem of evil for you? There's no such thing for you as an atheist. Sorry?
There is bad. There is bad. Things that are bad. I know that things that can cause you pain and suffering, and we should avoid those things. Rape is bad, therefore we should avoid.
Yeah, but you've changed your position
No,
again. You've changed your position again. You said there was no inherent evil, and now you're saying there is evil. What is it? Which one is it? Decide.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't want to use the word evil because as an atheist, which I am right now, there is no because evil, the word evil is religious in nature, right? So I don't want to use the
no, it's not. No, it's not. Again, look, you're changing your position and you're firing blank shots. Yeah, you just said it's a religious term. Evil's a religious term. No, it's not. Evil's not a religious term. Where did you get that from?
Brother Sabur, even if he was right, I don't think he's endearing himself to the audience, because then he's admitting that without religion, you know, there is no evil. This is not making your worldview look any more attractive or attractive or endearing.
See, that same rape would still take place, but there'll be no justice, as Abdullah said. There'll be no.
There is that, but there's also something else to keep in mind, right? Atheists come across as super empathetic. Oh my God, there's evil in the world. I can't believe this. And oh, by the way, I don't really believe in evil. Well, you can't be that sort of drawn. I'm sorry, you can't be that melodramatic about evil in the world and suffering and that impassioned thing you spoke about earlier about rape, and then just as a side comment say there's no intrinsic evil. We're not going to let that slide. That makes
or conveniently. Or conveniently label religion as evil. Religion is the one exception to the rule. You know, there is no evil, but religion. Yeah.
Because evil is associated with the devil and all those things. So that's why you wanted to use the word evil. But
okay, you're an atheist. You're an atheist. Is raping somebody evil?
Evil by your definition, yes, it would be.
No, by your understanding. According to you, is raping somebody evil? Evil, Jim, is raping somebody evil?
Do you know what? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Whatever your name is, you've got Jim and you've got picked off some other guy. You just made a point that's going to be a meme right now, right? You just memed yourself. You're going to be on the internet for a long time, buddy. So basically, what you just pointed out is why people should actually be Muslim. Because if you want to say rape is wrong, then you got to have some sort of theistic worldview. Thank you very much for that.
And the thing is, even if we change the word evil to objectively wrong, okay, objectively wrong, I still don't think you'll be able to talk your way out of it. Like, you know, why is rape objectively wrong? Or the scenario that I gave.
Go back to that scenario of the woman that's been drugged. She didn't have any pain. The geezer used the condom and that. So there's no pain or suffering. Why is that act evil?
Because society cannot work like that.
What does that mean?
Why would society? No, wait 1 second, Jim. I'm pretty sure that's not your name. Why the hell society working together is some absolute maximum perfect position that is the standard for right and wrong? Society working or society not working is as indifferent. You should be as indifferent to that as you are to particles floating around in a test tube.
So you're piggybacking on religion without knowing it.
Because that also causes a problem for your argument. Because if you're talking about society functioning, if we're going to use the pragmatic argument of society's functioning, okay, civilization overall, let's look at history, because there has never been an atheist anti-supernatural civilization in ever. And there's a reason for that, because those societies don't function. And the last time that we saw them actually come into fruition was during the 20th century, when they basically slaughtered half their populations and then crumbled from within. And I can name a couple of names. So my point that I'm trying to make is, if you want to make that point about, you know, society functioning as a measure of goodness or morality, then you've basically given your hand to religious belief systems, because those are the only societies that have ever existed and ever will exist in human history. There is no historical success story of an atheistic anti-supernatural civilization on this planet, and there never will be. I'm just being honest with you. So
yeah, that's a great point. So Jim, irrespective of whether you're convinced of the theology of Islam or not, irrespective of whether you're convinced of the preservation of the Quran or not, just for social, functional, pragmatic reasons, you should become a Muslim. You asked us for reasons for why you should be a Muslim. Be a Muslim because you'll be a better father. Be a Muslim because you'll be a better husband. Be a Muslim because a religious, devout Muslim is less likely to cheat on his spouse. You'll be helping society, right? Not the ideal reason to be Muslim, but you asked for a reason. That's one. The other reason is, Jim, if you are truthful, and I'm going to assume that you are a Muslim, you are coming from a Muslim background, you were once practicing Islam. You said, give us a reason for why you should come back. I would say ask yourself. Ask within yourself what that reason could be. Why is it that you're looking for a reason to come back? What is that brought you onto a Muslim live stream? What is it that you're missing about Islam? Because I know you're missing something, right? On a psychological level, on an emotional level, there's something that you're missing. Otherwise, you wouldn't come back and say, hey, give me a reason I want to believe. So I would ask you to pose that question to yourself. What is it that Islam was giving you that your current worldview is not able to give you? What is it that Islam was providing for you in your life that your current worldview and society is not able to provide for you? Ask this question within yourself, my brother.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'll just drop off. Thanks, guys.
I think you should, sir. I think you should. And I think, to be honest with you, all the answers, mashallah, is a brilliant... Forget Jim and his flex. This is a common question about people about evil and this and that. And you guys, man, you just smashed it.
Well,
Alhamdulillah.
I just don't. I know. I think it's. I didn't understand where he was trying to assert. I mean, one of the things that I think the big problem is that atheists always like to conflate human responses or human perceptions of evil actions with God, like as though we have the same abilities, we have the same functions, we have the same everything. Like, well, if you did this or then it would be evil. It's like, well, I'm not God. Okay. And if I had God's power, I would probably have a very different response to certain things, depending on how much I know and what I can do. Right. Like, yeah, if I see a woman getting raped, I'm going to jump in and try to do something because I have no other ability. Otherwise, I have to do something, like either I do something in that moment or that woman gets raped. Right. And this is something within my small perspective of things. Right. So, of course, yeah, I'm obligated as a human being to be, as a moral person, to do something. But God, it's like, not only does he know what everything's going on, but like literally what he's seeing around him, like this is not something he can't deal with. Not something that he can't resolve. He doesn't have to do it in the moment, and that may cause some people to be like, kind of go back and go, oh, well, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. Well, it's like, you need to look at the grand scheme of things. We're talking about an existence that will eventually, this small existence that we have here is a very small part of our existence, right? Eventually, we're going to be in eternity in one of two places. If you look at it from that perspective, is it really that cringeworthy to think about it from the perspective of an omnipotent being?
I got 2 points just to make very quickly. I like the example of the vaccine. Now, a baby's one thing, but if you went to a 5-year-old and you came with this big needle and you stuck it in their arm, they're going to think you're evil. They're going to think that person is evil. They've hurt me. But they can't comprehend. And I think that's one thing, is about the comprehension. The other thing is this, the idea that because bad things happen in the world, this means God doesn't exist. Now, the way I look at it is, well, what if God wants to allow bad things to happen in the world based upon people's choices? Then that's evidence for God existing. So the idea that because and this is why I tried to address it earlier, this all good business. I don't believe as Muslims we hold this position. We're not God is love. God is Aziz. God is all powerful. God is al-Adl. God is the judge. The God's can put people in hellfire. God doesn't love rapists and pedophiles and murderers. And the idea, this all love, all loving. No, alhamdulillah. Allah loves his creation, but he's given them free will. And he doesn't love those who do the bad things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like I think as you were alluding to earlier, if anything, evil can testify to the existence of a creator. Because if there is objective evil, which atheists aren't very sure about, then there must be objective good as well too. And what is that measure? What is that objective measure of objective good? They don't have an answer to that. We have an answer to that, right? Yeah. And to Brother Asadullah's point, absolutely. I mean, I heard a beautiful analogy once, an example, which is that think of all the crazy, you know, hair-raising nightmares that we've had in our lifetime, right? I mean, I've had nightmares where like a bear is chasing me and he's ripped off my arm and there's blood gushing out of the arm, right? And when you wake up, you know, 5 seconds later, you're not bothered by it at all. You know, you're happy and you're thankful and you're grateful and it's over, right? So that's how we approach it. That's how believers optimistically approach it. The other thing is, I really do think a lot of atheists who are stuck on this problem of evil thing, aside from the whole inconsistency of it, I think they've really underrated the importance of free will, or they've misunderstood what free will is, you know. And if God did everything that they expect or they claim they want God to do, then they would call him a dictator or a tyrant. Because think of the secular equivalent, think of the worldly equivalent. If our governments came out with a plan and said, hey, we can instill this microchip in every citizen in the country. And once you have this microchip instilled, you won't have any bad thoughts. You'll never be tempted to steal. You'll never be tempted to rape. You'll never be tempted to fornicate. You won't want to do drugs any longer. How many of these atheists are going to line up for that microchip? They're going to say that's taking away our agency. That's taking away our free will. So if you want to champion free will and agency, then the way I understand it, the natural byproduct of that is a world in which things are going to be imperfect, because people are going to make imperfect choices and decisions.
Yeah, there is a movie actually, if people want to experience what it's like, is the movie Minority Report.
Seen it, good movie.
Where people are arrested before they can commit the crime they're intending to do. So they haven't done anything, but because they were going to do that thing, they're arrested. And just
thinking about the thing, they were thinking about it.
Yeah, because they were thinking of, because they were thinking about doing it.
Yeah,
and I think they were going to go through with it, if I'm not wrong, if I remember the movie correctly, because there was those crazy.
It was just like them having a thought about it.
Yeah, or was it just a thought about?
No, because if you plan something, yeah, that obviously.
And in the end, he in the end, I was going to spoiler. In the end, he himself, who's the arresting cop.
No, I got to take out my earbuds.
So everybody, if you want to witness a world that is referring to, I'm not going to say the answer. I'm going to go spoilers. But everybody wants to witness a world where your very thoughts of doing something wrong are corrected before you do that wrong. Watch Minority Report.
Yeah, and that speaks to my point too, Hamza, which is that if God did what they claim they want God to do, then they would call him a tyrant or a dictator. So the next time an atheist says, well, why did my cousin die of cancer? If I were to tell him, well, because Allah knew he was going to murder somebody, that's why he took his life. Try selling that to an atheist. They won't buy that. That's not going to satisfy anybody.
They do the same thing with comprehension too. If you notice this when it comes to the Quran, well, why can't the Quran be clear to everyone and just tell everyone what it says? And like, there can't be no misinterpretation whatsoever. Like, there's no blame to be on the person whatsoever. Like, Allah has to come down and like literally force the interpretation into every human being, because, you know, we can't take responsibility for our own ignorance, our own inability to do certain things. It's like they want the same thing. And it's always funny because they're like, we're free thinkers, except we want Allah to force us to think.
It's Tom Cruise, not Christian Bale, by the way. It's a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
I did want to add something here. When we look at militantly atheistic countries, right? And I'm using that term the way it is, the way I did for a reason. Militantly atheistic countries who want to evangelize, such as the Chinese Communist Party, against who we did a protest yesterday here in London. You find you will not have anybody who will carry out evil actions against innocent people to the level that the atheist governments do in the entire history of the world. So if you have a Taoist government, a deistic government, a government which is Muslim or Christian or whatever, anybody with faith, anybody with the belief in a moral code which is unchangeable will never do to the level of evil that these communist, atheist type of states do. And even if the state's not communist, they're just atheistic states, And one of the reasons for that is because when you deny God's existence, then you have a type of hypocrisy. Now, that guy who joined us earlier, did you notice how he was so emotional about, oh, you know, what if a woman is raped and why isn't God getting involved? Like, he used this such, but then when it came down to his own belief, he's like, well, I don't believe anything to be intrinsically evil. And that fundamental contradiction leads to genocides. That fundamental contradiction leads to oppression. That fundamental contradiction leads to mass rape, internment, separation of mothers from their children, people having their fingernails pulled out, and all sorts of things which these atheistic, militantly atheistic societies do. So even though in the arena we're here to challenge like head-on Islamophobes and militant atheists and militant Christians, this isn't just for average people to enter. It's a gladiators type of arena. What we have to understand is that there's real-life implications of these pernicious beliefs that these people hold, which is why we need to smash it out of the park. You know, these types of beliefs, we don't just gently deal with them. We literally have to extract them and show how incredibly stupid they are so that normal people get killed.
Subhanallah, beautifully put. I have so many people saying to me, why do you Muslims care? Why do you want to teach everyone, leave everyone to believe? Well, you can't. You just can't. You know, first of all, we're not selfish. We want to give everyone the fantastic way of life, which is Islam. But when people are left to their own devices, become their own gods, anything's on the agenda as long as they can get away with it. And these, like you said, these atheistic governments, they've got no accountability in their mind. They've got the power. They do what they like. No one can do anything. Alhamdulillah, man.